Alright, students, in this box is what is going to solve all of our problems with everything. Let's take a look. It's beautiful. All right, students, let's talk about modal verbs a little bit today, shall we? I should have talked about this before reported speech, since we use the modal verbs in reported speech, but nobody's perfect. Anyway, has anyone seen Petey around? I don't know. I know he's nearby, but I don't know where he is. All right, so modal verbs. What are modal verbs? Modal verbs are an auxiliary verb, which means that they actually need a main verb to work. They just help the verb out. And they behave strangely in English. The way they work is they give additional information about the function of the main verb. So, modal verbs never change their form. You can't add s, you can't add ed, you can't add ing. They're always followed with what's called a bare infinitive. That's an infinitive without to. All right. And they indicate certainty, possibility, willingness, obligation, necessity, or ability. So, a quick list of what they are: can, could, may, might, will, would, shall, should, and must. Now, in addition, we have some verbs that act like modals but are not. Dare, ought to, had better, need not, even have to. But they are not exactly modal verbs, even though we use them like modal verbs. All right, as I said, we use modal verbs to give permission, to show ability, to express obligation, prohibition, which means banning something, a lack of necessity, to give advice, to show possibility, and to show probability. So some quick examples, okay, with must. Must shows strong obligation. You must turn in your assignments to pass this class. Makes sense, doesn't it? Or must also shows logical conclusion or certainty. You must be very tired after working all day. Must not now shows prohibition. You must not smoke within 10 meters of a bus stop in Korea. Good. Can shows ability. I can swim. I know how. And also we use it to give permission. Can I borrow some money? I'm asking permission. Or to show possibility. Smoking can cause cancer. That's a better sentence. Could shows ability in the past. When I was younger, I could ride a unicycle, but I can't now. Do you know what a unicycle is? One-wheeled bike. It's also used to ask for polite permission. Excuse me, could I please borrow some money? It's more polite than can. It also uses possibility, right? It could rain tomorrow. Okay. May we use for permission in a very, very polite way. May I borrow some money, please? Or to show possibility and probability. It may rain tomorrow. Might is the most polite way to ask permission for something. Might I borrow some money, please? It's super polite. Also, possibility and probability. It might rain tomorrow. All right. Need not shows a lack of necessity or an absence of obligation. You need not attend class in person this semester. We're doing all classes online, right? Should or ought to usually is about a 50% obligation. I should grade papers this weekend. Or to give advice, you should study harder. Makes sense, doesn't it? Or finally, to show something that goes to a logical conclusion. He should be very tired. He was working all day. All right, and had better is giving advice. You had better revise your lessons. Pretty easy, right? Remember that we use an infinitive after the modal verb, but we don't use to. Makes sense. So, for example, you must stop at a red traffic light. You should see the doctor. Or, you need not buy any more milk. We have a bunch already. Cool. Okay, modals in the past and present. What's weird about modals in the past and present is modal verbs have past tense and present tense, right? Can and could. Can is present tense. Could is past tense. But they don't work that way exactly and usually. Instead, we add have in the past we add have and the past participle to the main verb. So for example, in the present tense, you should see a doctor. But in the past tense, you should have seen a doctor. Giving advice, but it's too late to accept the advice. Now, modals that express obligation, ability, and lack of necessity, we actually do use the past form of the modal. So for example, for obligation, I have to work hard is the present tense. But in the past, we would say, I had to work hard. For ability, in the present, I can eat 50 boiled eggs at one time. In the past, I could eat 50 boiled eggs at one time. Or a lack of necessity. You don't have to come to my office this semester. And then if we make that past tense, you didn't have to come to my office last semester. It makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, let's go through a brief list of these, and then we'll jump ahead. So for obligation, you have to stop. Present tense. Past tense, you had to stop. Advice, you should see a doctor. Present tense. Past tense, you should have seen a doctor. Ability, I can run fast. I could run fast. Certainty, he must be very rich. He must have been very rich. Permission, present tense, we have to ask, right? Can I go out? Past tense, we already got the permission. I could go out. Possibility, it might rain. Past tense, it might have rained. We don't actually know. All right, lack of necessity, you don't need to buy any milk. You didn't need to buy any milk. Easy peasy. I feel like I'm just listing stuff today. Falling asleep, I apologize. Let's talk about must and have to. Must and have to mean the same things, right? For must, we use it to make a logical deduction based on evidence. It indicates that the speaker is certain about something. It rained all day. It must be very wet outside. Or the weather is fantastic in California. It must be a lot of fun to live there. We also use must to express strong obligation. Students must arrive in class on time. You must stop at the red traffic light. I must go to bed. All right. Now have to, similarly to must, have to is used to express strong obligation. But when we use have to, there is usually a sense of external obligation. For example, I have to send an urgent email because it's external obligation. Someone else is requiring it. I have to take this book back to the library. It's overdue. All right, last one. Shall and will. Let's take a look. Shall and will both have the same meaning again, right? They both refer to the simple future. Shall, as I mentioned before, is not really used commonly, particularly in American English. Still, we use will when we talk about any person. I, you, he, she, it, we, they, right? We will go there. They will go there. You will go there. Shall, however, is usually only used with I and we. I shall go, we shall go. In both cases, we can truncate the word and just use ul, right? I'll call you. I will call you becomes I'll call you. I shall call you also becomes I'll call you. Pretty simple, right? Now, we use shall, specifically, basically the only time that we use shall in American English is when we are offering suggestions in a very polite way. Shall we go? Shall we dance? What shall I do? All right, now, speaking about shall, I said we normally only use it with I and we, which is mostly true. However, if you are the king, you can use shall as a command, right? We see this in the Ten Commandments for the Bible. Thou shalt not kill. Shall. You shall not get in. You shall go to prison. You shall get your money back soon. All right, that's basically it for the modal verbs. It's easy enough. I think this video is short. Let's wrap it up here. I will see you guys soon. Have a great day.